Hey there, I'm John Sterling. Welcome back to Noob School. Today I got Mike Thacker.
Hello there.
Hello, Mike. One of my all-time favorite people. But started as a salesperson, started as a noob like the rest of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mike joined me in our company how long ago?
98.
So it's like 10 years ago.
Right.
Almost. Yeah, so 98, wow. Very cool, right before the year 2000. Well, yeah, Mike was a great salesperson. He required very little training, as I recall.
That's correct.
I remember trying to help you, and it's just like you got it all. You understood everything I was trying to say immediately, and you were making quota really quick.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How do you do that?
I think the biggest thing is just being patient. You know, one of the things that I found early, and it's a comment you made, is you buy from your buddy. You know, instead of trying to push so hard for the sale, I just got to know what they were wanting.
Yeah.
I really had a challenge in the beginning, listening. That was one of the biggest flaws I had. Is I was, as soon as they said something that gave me a sense that they wanted to buy something, I wanted to jump on the sale.
Yeah.
But through learning and through patience, I've learned that, like, if you just sit back and chill, they'll tell you the whole story along the way, and then you can sell them a lot more by just listening.
Well, I'm not kidding. You know, we had hundreds of salespeople, and I would say Mike Thacker is right up there at the top in terms of the old natural salesperson. I mean, you just always knew how to do it. And I think you are good at that. It's like just trying to understand what they want and not being nervous about it.
No, I think that's another thing. Having comfortable conversations goes a lot better than when you feel like somebody's trying to sell you something.
Right.
Yeah, that's why, you just talk about something else and then ease the product into the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're really good at it. So remind me, in 98, do you remember what our interview was like?
So I went through several interviews.
You did?
Yeah. And then you were the last one.
I was the last
And it was up in the office.
Okay.
And I remember your office exactly where it is, down the floor of the fourth, on the fourth floor. And, I was kind of thinking, because I was right out of college, and it was like, I'm finally to the big final interview.
Yeah.
And I walked in, you were just super chill. You know what I mean? I was like, I kind of went in kind of nervous, but then I left there like, wow, this is a great company, and this is where I want to spend my time. But I started, you may not remember this, but I started in leads. Like I wasn't, it was kind of like the holding tank they put you in before you got into sales. Okay. And they said I was going to be in there about a year. And I was in there 2 months because I was like, I'm not going to do this. Yeah. And then, luck of the draw, it was whoever got canned, you ended up getting their territory. Yeah. So you weren't in the best position. Yeah. So however the cards were dealt, and it was Boston. And it was area code based. So I had 617 and 80. I had part of Connecticut too, 860. So the Hartford area. But the guy before me, I was like, oh God, this is going to be so bad. Yeah. But ended up, shortly becoming one of the top territories.
Well, I can't imagine you being stuck in leads for too long.
No.
No, you gotta let the horse run.
Right.
And then, what else have you sold since then? I mean, that's a broad question, but what are some of the other stops you've had on your career up to now?
It's a pretty wild story, but I've sold everything from software to injection mold tooling. I lived over in Asia for a little while. I've dabbled in real estate. I've dabbled in cars. Your families, I think everyone in your family's purchased a car from me at some point.
True.
So, I've had my hands in a lot of that. All sales related, though.
Yeah, I know. But, I mean, you also had the super high-end real estate thing.
Over in the Caribbean.
In Mexico, right?
Yep. I lived there a couple of years as well.
Yeah. So, Michael, really, I mean, he's just one of those people you'd say can sell ice to the Eskimos, whatever. He just got the gift. So, whatever he decides to put his mind to, he can sell it. And it's pretty cool to see. Very easy decision for me after I met you. And saw your Colby. I remember your Colby. I don't remember the exact numbers, but whatever the numbers were, indicated salesperson and kind of entrepreneur, which is a more quick start. and where you're just willing to go try things and do things, which is kind of more like mine, more of an entrepreneurial pattern than a sales pattern. Also indicates, Mike, I don't know if you've been told this before, a little harder to manage.
A little harder to manage. That's
like,
pretty accurate.
It's like trying to put the genie in the bottle.
Correct.
So anyway, I think I was maybe the best at doing that because I kind of gave you some space.
Yeah.
Like, Michael, if you make your number, everything's cool.
Right.
Right?
Just make your number.
Just make your number. I don't need any TPS reports.
So it may be the third day before the end of the quarter, and all of a sudden magically hit my number.
That's it. That's what I'm talking about. So, for all your noobs out there, if all else fails, just make your number. Okay, that will save you, right? That'll save you. So let's talk about a few things that specifically can help these brand new salespeople. Number one, what are some of the things, if you were starting over, or things you remember that you did when you were just starting out that weren't so good that you wouldn't do again, they should watch out for?
So it was interesting. We talked prior to this interview starting about how great it would be to like kind of take ourselves, go back to our 25 years ago and be like, hey, what the heck were you doing back then? I think that you probably remember this, but you made us record our calls, and we'd have to go up. It'd be 5 or 6 of us in a room, and you press play on the tape recorder, and if we did anything stupid, you would hammer us.
In front of your peers.
In front of our peers,
Yeah,
which
of
is
course.
worse. And there was one thing in particular. You wanted absolutely was the word.
Yeah.
You had to include if someone said something important. It had to be
Gotta
absolute.
say absolute.
So I remember one time there was one of the guys, and he missed an absolutely. It was like a perfect spot to fit in an absolutely.
Yeah.
And he went back and re-recorded it.
Plugged it in?
And absolutely, and it was so obvious what he had done.
Did I catch it?
You didn't catch it.
Oh my God!
But we all knew it. We all knew
That
it.
is so great.
We all knew it.
So
it was
he
Russ.
should have said absolute. Russ?
Yes, Russell.
Russ.
I can't remember the guy's name.
So he should have said absolute.
He should have said absolutely.
So the customer said something like, could you possibly get it to us by next Thursday? And he's
Yes.
like, let me check.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, and I called him because you didn't know this, but we would listen to each other's calls, making sure it was the right call to go up to the big show.
Yeah.
And I said, you missed an absolutely. You missed an absolutely. And he goes, I think maybe I could record it in there. So
A little side business and getting the tape right.
but back to what we were saying about why what I do now versus what I did before. I think that I was just so hungry to sell something instead of understanding the people's issues and the problems they were trying to solve.
Yeah.
Solution selling.
Yeah.
So instead of just selling for the sake of selling, actually, creating a referenceable account is what's huge.
Well, I mean, I would agree. Just to add a little flavor to that, I think noobs tend to start with trying to make the transaction. It's like there's a person on that side of the table and a person on this side, and you're trying to get them to say yes.
Yes.
And it makes you look good. You make commission, all this stuff. And it's the wrong way to do it. I mean, if you can get on their side of the table and just get them to open up to what their situation is and then solve it for them, they'll happily give you the order, right?
Yeah.
You know that.
Well, and also understanding the rest of the audience of the organization. So you may be dealing with one guy, and there's 10 other decision makers in the process, and you've got to know who those people are, because you can think you've got a deal done and get derailed at the last stage of the sales cycle.
Yeah.
So knowing the whole audience and pulling everyone together, early in the sales cycle.
Yeah.
Get everybody. If they're not willing to sit down in a room full of executives, you probably don't have a deal.
What's your biggest deal ever?
It was Georgia Pacific. And it was interesting because Georgia Pacific, if you remember, had custom red code for MP2.
MP2 custom,
And then they bought the source code from Larry when DataStream bought Infor. And they called up and were like, hey, we're looking at rewriting this in .NET. And they had Oracle and some other big companies in line. And I said, hey, I actually used to work for DataStream. Would you let us do this?
Yeah.
And it was a 9-month sales cycle, but absolutely the biggest deal I've ever closed. $7 million.
Taylor.
Yeah.
$7 million. 7 million. This is what's possible. We always talk about, if you're a noob, you want to be where Mike's sitting. You can close a $7 million deal. He's done so many other things too. We've stayed in great touch over the years, but 7 million. So you can do that. And just keep listening. There's a few more things. Tell us about some of the stuff you did when you started that you would want to pass on, that people knew.
Some of the things that I did successfully.
like the good stuff.
I think with your teammates, sharing the success stories, bouncing off of others that have been successful. So when you come in new to an organization, that's one thing I did. Eden's was number one.
Yeah.
So I lashed myself to him. And
so he's talking about Brian Edens, who was at the time our number one salesperson. And I think what Mike's saying is what you should do, hang around those kind of people.
Absolutely.
Learn from them.
100%.
Yeah.
See, I snuck an absolutely in there.
Absolutely. Okay, and then one of my subjects I ask everyone about is head trash. Again, for an example, in my life, as a kid, the head trash was, it's not polite to talk about money. Mm-hmm. That's just not polite, kind of a thing you learn. And then, of course, when you get out and you're in business, you better be talking about money.
Correct.
So do you have any head trash in your life that you've kind of gotten through?
Off the top of my head, I think, and the same thing happened to John Harrison. I was so young coming in.
Yeah.
And I remember one of you guys told me to wear glasses during the meeting because it would make me feel older. So I'm early 20s.
Yeah.
And Lear was one of my accounts, and I'm in this boardroom up in Southfield, Michigan, and I feel like a kid in there.
Yeah.
So getting past that and realizing quickly that software, relatively speaking, is pretty new.
Yeah.
So it's not uncommon to have young entrepreneur sales folks that are young. So you look at Zuckerberg, he looks like he's 10.
Yeah.
And running a multi-billion-dollar organization.
Yeah.
So just get that out of your head. I mean, it doesn't matter what your age is.
Is what
just,
you know.
Just sell, right?
Is what you know. Yeah. Well, that's a great one. Let's go with your favorite word in the English language.
It is a 4-letter word.
Okay, I was afraid of that.
I'm going to keep it PG, but it is SOLD. Sold.
Sold.
So there's nothing better than closing a deal. It honestly is like a drug to me.
Yeah.
So
very good. Sold. That's a good one. That's the best word yet in the podcast series.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations. So, Michael, thank you for being on the show.
Absolutely.
Outstanding guest.
Thank you.
Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Noob School, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.